Next on Good Morning El Paso, strong winds left behind some damage in West El Paso over the weekend, and we could see those winds again today. A first alert is in effect. Your complete Storm Track weather forecast is ahead.
We're getting ready before the snow.
Got the plows on the trucks. We've got the salt in the salt sheds.
People across America are already waking up to snow this morning after an Arctic blast is making its way from Canada. A look at how people are actually preparing for even colder temps today.
And we could find out today if students at Las Cruces and Mayfield Highs will be facing any penalties. This after a fight broke out after Friday's football game.
Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC 7's Good Morning El Paso.
Good morning, El Paso, Las Cruces, and Juarez. Thanks for waking up so early with us today. I'm Floren.
And I'm Stephanie Valle. It is Monday at 6:01, and we could be in for a windy start to the work week. A first alert is in effect for today. Let's get straight to meteorologist Crystal Clyde for our forecast.
And good morning, everyone. That first alert was issued over your weekend, expecting those high winds for today. Now, we saw some high wind gusts the west side over your weekend. Today, it's looking like the east side especially windy, as those winds will be coming in from the west. Those very windy conditions led to that first alert in effect, and we will have the potential for blowing dust as we move throughout your afternoon thanks to those high winds. Plus, we're also talking a wind advisory that's in effect all the way through 8 p.m. tonight around our region thanks to these winds. As for your temperatures right now, it's not a bad start to your morning temperature-wise. We're at 56 outside in El Paso, and winds are at 14 miles per hour. They'll be getting stronger later today. In Las Cruces, 45 degrees and calm. As we mentioned, it's not too terrible of a start to your morning, but later today you might want to hide out indoors. We'll talk more about those high wind gusts this afternoon and if they'll drop off in the days to come up in a few minutes.
Doesn't sound too pleasant, and this story doesn't sound too pleasant either. The official start of winter is weeks away, but it's going to seem like winter's already here for much of the country this week.
42 out of 50 states are experiencing a deep freeze thanks to an Arctic blast pushing down from Canada. Here's ABC's Timon Bradley with our Storm Track weather coverage.
This morning, frigid Arctic air is barreling into the U.S., sending temperatures plunging. Overnight, snow fell in Bismarck, North Dakota. In Soda Springs, California, this is what people are waking up to after 10 inches of snow. In Wisconsin and Minnesota, where a foot of snow is expected, salt trucks and plows are standing by.
We're getting ready before the snow.
Got the plows on the trucks. We've got the salt in the salt sheds, so we're ready.
With temperatures expected to stay below 30 degrees, homeless shelters are filling up.
We have one room open tonight, but we will be full tomorrow morning.
In the Chicago area, signs of the fast approaching holiday season and the winter storm season.
It's at the polar vortex of 2014 and 15. Am I prepared for the winter? Not mentally, definitely not mentally.
This cold snap is not the result of the polar vortex, but rather a big dip in the jet stream. Last week, one of the most powerful storms ever recorded, Typhoon Nuri, 800 miles wide, battered the Alaskan islands, kicking up winds and waves.
We don't need to get anybody hurt. Just get home safe.
Typhoon Nuri's size and strength helped push the jet stream over the eastern part of the U.S. Forecasters say this week many places will struggle to top the freezing mark, making November feel more like January. Timon Bradley, ABC News, Washington.
A man is struggling to stay alive after crashing into a freeway guardrail early yesterday morning. Police say around 4 a.m. Jorge Alvarez was driving south on US 54 when he struck a guardrail and was critically injured. Around-the-clock news crew captured the scene. Investigators say the 34-year-old was speeding when he attempted to go around a slower-moving vehicle. They say Alvarez then lost control of his Camaro and struck a guardrail. Still no word if alcohol was a factor, but we'll update you as soon as we get any new information.
Fort Bliss will be one of 5 isolation stations in the country to house troops coming back from Africa. It granted ABC 7 an inside look where soldiers will be staying. The Department of Defense announced the soldiers must be quarantined for 21 days. The barracks are pretty much like college dorms, bedrooms, a living room, a gym, even entertainment centers. About 150 military staff will run the facilities. Fort Bliss is expecting soldiers in Liberia to return later this month. The Pentagon says up to 4,000 soldiers could be sent to help combat the virus. And meanwhile, President Obama is defending his decision to deploy more U.S. forces to Iraq to fight against ISIS. An additional 1,500 troops are being sent to help train Iraqi army soldiers and militia fighters to battle ISIS. In an interview on CBS's Face the Nation, President Obama said the increase is not a sign the U.S. strategy isn't working, rather a signal the campaign is entering a new phase. He is not ruling out the possibility that more troops may be needed.
After spending more than 2 years in North Korean custody, Kenneth Bae and Matthew Todd Miller are finally home. Both were in custody after being sentenced to hard labor for their crimes. This comes just weeks after another American detainee, Jeffrey Fowle, was released. North Korea initiated this trip, contacting the U.S. government and urging them to send a cabinet-level official to discuss their release. This is what Bae had to say as he arrived home.
We're finally here. My brother is home. All of our hopes and prayers for this moment have finally come true. We are so thankful.
I just also want to thank President Obama and all the people in State Departments. They're working tirelessly hard to get me released as well. And also, I'd like to thank the DPRK North Korea government as well, allowing me to go home and come home and be united with our family and for the loved people.
And what's the first thing to do once reaching American soil after being held captive? Eat some pizza. Kenneth Bae and his friends celebrated Bae's return from North Korea with a slice. The Free Kenneth Now Facebook group shared that photo of Bae and his friend taken Saturday night shortly after he returned to the U.S. For the past 2 years, of course, he couldn't have food like this. There are no more Americans that we know of being held in this secretive country.
Well, before the midterm election, activists have been working for years to turn Texas blue, but the results didn't exactly pan out that way.
Good morning. El Paso's Andrew J. Polk is live right now with more information on this story. Good morning, Andrew.
Yeah, good morning, Hillary and Stephanie. On last night's ABC 7 Extra, current and former state legislators from both sides of the aisle came on to discuss what happened in this election and particularly what happened to the hopes of Democratic activists that Texas could see a color shift this election. Now, many Democrats, including Wendy Davis, were hopeful that a blue revolution would be seen across Texas last Tuesday, but that just wasn't the case. Statewide offices stayed firmly in Republican hands this election, including the governor's office, despite this being considered one of the first open elections in decades. Exit poll data shows that older white men went out to the polls more, but Democratic State Senator Jose Rodriguez says that it's not an issue of demographics, rather it's about connecting with voters on the issues that matter to them.
Unless you can connect to a voter, regardless of who they are, Latino or otherwise, issues that are important to them, that hit them in the pocketbook, for example, and so forth, then they're just not interested.
So there is still some Democratic hope for the future elections in Texas, particularly with the upcoming 2016 presidential election, which historically people across the aisle are much more likely to vote in. So for now, reporting live in central El Paso, Andrew J. Polk, ABC 7.
Thanks so much, Andrew. A live look at traffic right now at 6:08. This is I-10 and Brown. Things picking up as you head into the downtown area from the east side. And let's take another live look from I-10 and Piedras now. Nice shots there, huh, Steph? Of the sun about to come up.
I was just about to say that. Well, more women are now serving in the Army than ever before, but they are still considered in the minority.
We're going to take a look at a program at Fort Bliss, which is actually aiming to help female soldiers overcome any obstacles that they face while they're serving.
And the most expensive home in America is now for sale, but who in America can actually afford a house worth nearly $200 million?
Something to think about when you're building, right? Resale value. All right, and back here in the borderland, we're under a first alert for those very strong winds. They're back.
Yeah, unfortunately, Crystal Clyde has a peek at your forecast.
And we are talking a breezy start to your morning with those high winds hitting in the later part of your day. We're going to track those wind speeds coming up after your break.
Thanks, Crystal. This is ABC 7, where news comes first.